over. Playtime is over. Now you are a champion. God is my witness. Imperfect perfection. Living my mission and winning. See, we are influencers. We have fear but don't stop. I have the confidence to rise to the top. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. All I need is inside of me. I am enough and now I see. Yeah, I will reach my destiny. Yeah, I don't need your permission. Yes, I'm on a mission. I'll win. Oh, oh, oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Now listen, I want y'all to repeat after me, okay? Because we're going to make some declarations in here today. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. You say, I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. Say, I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see me. Say, I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. You say, we are standing bolder, we're shoulder to shoulder. We are standing bolder, we're shoulder to shoulder. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. Hey, yeah, yeah.
Well, great Wednesday afternoon. Hello, everybody. I'm shouting everybody out who's watching us online through voxwave.com, as well as all of my amazing friends on Facebook Live. Look, I got to shout them out. Pam Dorsey is with us. Thanks for being here. Courtney Aiken is here. Terry Tabor is here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We got to shout out Shadell Watkins and Kimberly. Kimberly is tuning in from Hawaii, y'all. She said it is 7 a.m. in Hawaii, so aloha to all the folks in Hawaii. Shouting out Ladrine Peterson, who is our premier sponsor of the show. Thank you for being here. Tanika McWhirter, Lakeisha Williams, all the way from Florida. Rodney Branch, hello from Copa Style Magazine. Carla Watson. The list goes on and on. We cannot have a juicy, juicy show if y'all not here. So thank you for always being here with us. We have 2 amazing guests, as we do every week, who are just going to wow you and just blow you away. But before I jump into that, I do have to thank some folks. First of all, I have to thank Ladrine Peterson, who is our premier sponsor of the show. Her company is turning dreamers into doers. She's doing so many phenomenal things in the community, especially with young people. You should connect with her.
I love it.
Yes, because you're big on that based on your bio. So we'll talk about that in a little while. So I think that would be a great collaboration. But she's doing amazing things. And so you want to check her out online at Ladrine, Ludrean Peterson, as well as on her website, do-it-delivers.com. We love you. We thank you for always being such a staunch supporter of Impact the World Radio. We also have to thank Tammy Turner, that beautiful voice that you hear every week when you are here, singing that amazing song with those amazing lyrics. Well, that sister is local to the DMV. She wrote, produced, performed, did all of that for that song. And so we have adopted it here because y'all know my motto, playtime is over. You don't have time to think about it, wish for it, hope for it. You have got to get out and execute. I want you to live by this quote. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you demand. Come on, y'all. So what are you demanding? Not simply through words, not through what you're saying out of your mouth, but through your actions. How are you showing up? Where are you showing up? How consistently are you showing up? And I see that I have some people from Impact Nation in the house. Hello, Sharon Herbert, as well as our guest, our second guest today, Kimberly Cleveland is Impact Nation. I know y'all are barking and barking and barking and barking and barking until somebody pays attention. Come on now. We hyped today. I thought I didn't have energy, but I found it. Something about coming into a good energy with other people. You get good energy, right? So let me introduce my first beautiful, dynamic guest. Look, nice. Y'all know I always tease and say I have a public school education, right? I went to Baltimore City Public Schools, no college degree, but God has blessed me to be able to travel all over the world and touch lives, regardless of what I don't have, because he's allowed me to focus more on what I do have. But when I come across bios like this and sisters like this, I be like, I'm cheering for them. I got my pom-poms in the air, because I'm just like, this is a bad mama jamma right here. So y'all want to know who she is? Let me tell you who she is. Her name is Dr. Denise Dortch. I said that right. I ain't jacked your name up. Thank you, Lord. She is a diversity scholar, practitioner, and activist with 15 years of professional experience in nonprofit and higher education institutions. A visiting assistant professor at George Washington University, she works with education institutions across the country to design and implement programs and curriculums that promote diversity and inclusion, such as the African American Doctoral Studies Initiative at the University of Utah. Dr. Dortch has a PhD in education leadership and policy analysis from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I told you she was bad to the bone. Welcome to the show, Dr. Denise Dortch.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And you come in so just humble and just soft, soft-spoken and quiet. But your resume, your bio speaks for itself. You're doing amazing things in the world for African-American people and just diversity. Tell us more about who you are, how you got started, what made you take this path in life.
You know, so several years ago, I used to be a Peace Corps volunteer. And there are very few folks of color, especially black folks, who happen to go and do that work. And then I remember one day I served in Peace Corps, Morocco and Jamaica. And so when I was there, I decided that I wanted to go back to grad school because I wanted to be a Peace Corps country director. And I remember the director who was in Jamaica at the time, and he said, "You need to go back to school." And I said, okay. And then he handed me a brochure and said, "Here." And it was for the School for International Training, which happens to be in Vermont, in Brattleboro, Vermont, which most people have not heard of ever.
No, can't say I have.
And so their degrees, they had a degree at the time focused on like social justice and training. And so I thought, well, this would be a really good place for me to go and learn how to be a practitioner. And so I went there, and I remember there was a day, it was called like Social Identity Day. And it was a day where we practiced lots of exclusion and inclusion activities, lots of insider, outsider activities, so people would know what it was like to feel excluded and included. And so I remember there was a time when we had this privilege walk. And so if you're not familiar with that, it's the facilitator will ask a series of questions, and if you respond affirmatively, you take a step forward, and if you respond sort of negatively, you take a step backwards, right? And so I sort of knew when we started how it was going to turn up. Like I would be at the back, right? I would be at the back, and I was at the back like this, like all the way almost where I could touch the rear wall. And so me and another colleague of mine, very good friend of mine, we were also at the back together. And then the heterosexual white Christian male was like so far in the front, he was out the door. Like he couldn't even see him anymore. And so that day I remember a student, a white woman came up to me, and she had tears in her eyes and she was crying, and she said, "I'm sorry." And at the time, I didn't ask her, but I questioned, sorry for what? Are you sorry because I'm in the back and you're in the front? Would you trade places with me if you could? You know, what is prompting these tears that you have? And so that really started my journey in terms of wanting to go back into higher education, because this is an international school where students are going back out into the world, primarily going to help black and brown folks across the globe. Wow. And so I wanted to reconceptualize what their idea of help is. What does it mean to help?
So good. Is that good, y'all? Is that good? I know y'all are loving it over there on that end. I know you are.
So I really wanted to think about what does it mean to like help, fix, and serve. And so at that institution, it really taught me how to be with people in a group of, you know, a small group of 10 versus a room of 150, and really be able to connect with people in that way. But it didn't teach me how to be a scholar. So then I went to work and then realized that I needed to go back to school to really focus on my scholarship, really begin to put theory into practice, because I knew practice, but I didn't know the theories behind the practice. And so then that took me to Columbia University. So then I ended up getting a second master's, and that institution really taught me to be a scholar. So I was a practitioner, and then I was a scholar, and then what taught me to be really the activist that I've become is my journey at the University of Wisconsin. And so then I went there to get a PhD, and that's when I really started focusing on the graduate student experience, the Black graduate student experience, the African American Black graduate student experience, and really wanted to understand how we were being socialized into the academy, our sense of belonging, our efficacy, that's our belief in our own ability to complete a task, how they're training us, all of the hidden rules that are surrounded in the institution that we don't necessarily have access to, and what does that mean? And what does that mean for us as we're trying to get into and move through school successfully? So I spent a lot of time spending my life's work now is to do a lot of research around that, understanding their experience so that I can share it with other institutions and other students so that they don't go around feeling like they're crazy, right? That they're crazy for being isolated and alone and lonely. And part of the graduate school process, because it was built not for us, right? Higher education institutions weren't built with us in mind, right? So because of that, students who are going into STEM fields or higher education fields might be the only one in their program. Yes. They're only one in their entire college, yes. right? And so they feel isolated and alone. And for Black folks, particularly, we are a collectivist community, right? We thrive better together. So when you systematically, essentially isolate us from one another, and you say that that's part of the process, and that in order to get through this, you have to do it alone, I think that that's intentionally inflicting undue harm and violence.
Wow.
So,
can we just take a breath? Hold on.
Yeah.
Woo, let's just take a breath, because that is so deep and so powerful. I literally have goosebumps. I'm thinking about my daughter. I have a 15-year-old who is currently in 9th grade, and she's in a science and tech program, and we're exploring, how do we take this further? What do we do with this? Like, are there really opportunities for you? And so my question as a parent and hearing you is, how do I guide her into a space where she doesn't feel isolated, where she does get the support that she needs and the help and the guidance that she needs when she gets to that point in her life?
So for students, for women in particular in STEM fields, it's few and far between, right? So you think being Black is, and then so having this double marginalization, being Black and a woman and being like a physicist or an engineer or something like that, you're going to be faced with double marginalization. You're going to experience perhaps some psychological violence. I think the best thing that we can do, because violence exists in this country, right? We are a country built on racism. Racism promotes violence. And so that bit we may not be able to change, like in our lifetime. But I think when you can appropriately prepare students, then they know how to armor themselves. And then they won't be dropping out or having their hair fall out or get these ulcers or face all of these health and wellness issues that ensue as a result of experiencing violence in school. And I would say to your daughter, don't not pursue it because you're afraid of the violence that you may experience, because these types of violences exist in industry, right? In banking, in finance. Like, so because we are a culture of violence, right? It's not going to necessarily go away. I think, unfortunately, for some students, when they're going into these institutions, like, you know how schools will have the diversity shot? And they'll have all the people like this cheesing in front, and you think, oh, man, this is going to be great. There's going to be all these different people and cultures and all of that. And they may exist, or they may find the one or two Black folk, the one or two Latinos, the one or two, put them all on a brochure, and then you think that that it's going to be a lot more diverse than it actually is. I think at the undergraduate level, institutions do a little bit of a better job in terms of recognizing that students need to feel like they matter and need to be part of a campus community and that sort of thing at the undergraduate level. Where it starts to deteriorate, not just at the undergraduate level because it is there also, but at the graduate level, folks sort of feel like graduate students have it figured out. They don't. They don't. Nobody knows how to write that first 25-page paper until they have to do it.
Right.
Nobody knows how to write a dissertation. There's not one person on earth who knows how to write a dissertation before they have to do it. There's not one of us. And even though getting a doctorate academically is sort of the pinnacle of like, you know, what it means to sort of be in school, those students are suffering too because they're expected to already know when they don't. Then there is the same sets of mechanisms that are set up for undergrads because they folks expect them not to know, aren't set up for graduate students. So many of them feel doubly isolated, alone. And if you're a grad student, many graduate students are adults, are going back, have families and all of these other things. So they may have a different set of support systems, but a lot of them don't. A lot of them don't. And so it is no surprise that it's at the point of candidacy. So a lot of folks go and they're all but dissertation, right? And it's at the point of candidacy in which most people drop out, right? Because there's no more system of checks and balances. Nobody's checking for you. There's no more class. And even though you're like, woo, I'm so glad to get out that class. No, because in class is when people notice you're not around, right? It's class that someone is like, hey, what did you get on such and such a paper or whatever? Do you want to go study together or whatever? But as a grad student, a lot of that, you have to figure that out on your own. You have to come up with your own networks and your own writing groups. And folks just don't feel like they have time. Or what I would say to your daughter is that socializing around academics doesn't take away from your academics, right? It's actually
socializing around academics doesn't take away from your academics.
Right. Okay. So meaning you can have a study group together and y'all could kiki and talk about Beyonce and get your math homework done. You know what I mean? Like you can do both at the same time. But a lot of times STEM students in particular, because they have labs and all these other things, feel that they may have the desire to study with other students of color, but don't feel like they have the time. But what I try to help them understand is that you don't have to divorce yourself from that group, be by yourself because you feel like you can't do both. If you integrate it as part of your experience, as this is just part of the process, then it'll help you with that feeling of isolation. It'll help you in terms of your own learning. I tell students right now, so I'm in education, in the field of education, right? But the person who taught me how to do like my first conference poster ever, an engineering student. The first person who edited my first conference proposal that turned into my first solo authored article, a med student. Right? But we were all together. And so that cross-level learning really enhances your experience. It teaches you how to talk to people in other disciplines. So if you can do that, if you can start to do that early, find your community, whatever that may look like, whomever that may look like, people who care about you and care about your success, then it's a lot easier to move through the process successfully.
And I love that. And I'm gonna make that applicable to a lot of the people who are our viewers who are in business. I feel like the same principle applies. It's like you need a diverse range of individuals, some people who are completely out of the industry that you're in, and people who have a different level of education or knowledge than you do, so that you do have that mix and you can get different people's perspective and views. Like I just like having a diverse view of what I'm doing and other people's perspective, where it's not just me, it's not just my creativity, it's not just my ideas and thoughts. So I'm gonna say make that applicable to you even in your business. So that is very, very powerful for students and for all of my business owners who are watching us. So did you come from a family of scholars? Like where did all of this passion
not
and just,
at all.
like I'm so impressed with you. Like I could sit like this really. If nobody was watching, I would just be like this. Because you are magnetizing, right? Your energy, your love for what you do. But I think that's what happens when all of us, any of us, are walking in our lane of brilliance and our gifting, is that you become this person who magnetizes other people simply because you can feel your passion, you can feel your drive. I don't care what it is that you do, and that's how I feel sitting next to you right now.
Thank you so much.
Like,
that's very kind.
where'd that come from? Like you said, you don't come from a family of scholars. Where'd that come from?
Well, no. So I'm the 6th of 7 children, actually. Happy birthday, Mama. So
Oh
today
yeah,
is my
happy
mom.
birthday, Mama. What's Mama's name?
Janice.
Janice. Happy birthday, Janice.
So yeah, so my mother and father had 7 children together, and so I'm the 6th. So I'm one of the younger ones. Some of my siblings went off to college and some didn't. My mother went to community college, but that was sort of the extent of like her formalized education. My father only went to high school, graduated from high school. My grandparents had an 8th grade, my grandmother had an 8th grade education. My grandfather had a 10th grade education. My grandmother was a domestic. So no, my mom's an only child. So no, I didn't come from a family where, you know, it was surrounded by all of these academics, no. But I did have brothers who did go to college before me. So what I tell people is that if you come from, you know, a big family like I did, whatever your siblings do becomes an option, right? So if you have a sibling that goes to college, college becomes an option, right? If you have a sibling that drops out, dropping out becomes an option,
very
right?
powerful.
If you have a sibling that, you know, gets pregnant, like early on, that becomes an option, right? That didn't really exist for me when I was growing up, but some of my siblings went to college, some went into the service and did that. My grandparents really pushed education. My grandfather, I can just hear him in my head, get your education, always, always, always. Definitely grew up in that family that had the Ebony, the Essence, and the Crisis, right? Magazine, and so education was like really important. My mom, though, my mom was just like a really smart person, and growing up just exposed us to reading, right? And she would take us to the library and exposed us to have like a lot of books, and so we would go and we would read. And you know what's funny? She didn't really care what we read, just that we were reading. And so I think that was really important. And so we grew up just reading a lot. And I was someone who was taught very early on by my siblings too. So if they're doing their homework, even though I didn't know what they were doing, I was sitting there being nosy and watching them, and they were teaching me. And so well, people ask me quite a bit, like, am I smarter than them? No, but I learned earlier, right? So I was exposed a lot sooner than they were, because they were the ones teaching me.
I just have to say, I so see my daughter in you. Like, I have to make the connection.
Please.
Everything, just so much about everything that you're saying. I just see my daughter in you, and she is. I could totally see her as an activist.
Yes.
So where does that? Where do you see that as we start to wrap up? What do you want to accomplish? 2 things. What do you want to accomplish as a part of your current activism? And secondarily, what do you want your ultimate legacy to be?
Ooh, gosh. Can I answer the second one first?
Yes.
So I think
you have options.
Okay. I think my legacy. I want people to remember me as someone who helps students get into and move through school successfully. Right. I really want to be remembered for that. For someone who cared enough to want to make institutions better for Black and brown folk, right?
I love that.
That's really, really important to me. You know, I've been to grad school 3 times, and so I feel like I know a little something about it.
Yeah, you
right?
know, she might just know a little something, y'all.
And so I understand fully the student experience. I'm a faculty member now, so I'm on the other side of it now, and so I try to tackle it from that end. And so I'm someone who tries to tackle like systemic oppression from like multiple angles, right? So I do it through publishing, through helping students one-on-one, through group coaching. I do that, but then institutionally, I give a lot of talks. I get talks around the country about racial agency. That's probably my most widely requested sort of talk, and that just means that you are willing to tackle racial issues either in public or in private. Lots of us engage in racial agency all the time, every day. We're just not calling it that, but that's what it is. And essentially for me, I want to help students understand that their pen is their armor. right? Like, use your pen because writing is, Nelson Mandela said, writing is a revolutionary act, right? And so
I just so need you in my child's life. Like, you just don't even understand. Like, this is divine. Like, you know, they're divine connections. This is a divine connection. Like, I just need you to understand the power of that. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So,
I'm all in it for what I can personally gain. I'm sorry, y'all. I hope y'all are getting something too. But right now, she's just speaking to me. Okay.
Well, I just want people to know that. And so for institutions who may feel like they're at a loss, because we see a lot of this stuff in the news now, like people in blackface and these Snapchat incidents and
just
all
had
these
this conversation with my children.
All these racist incidents that are sort of bubbling up, right? That seems like they're bubbling up right now, even though they're not. This is pretty commonplace for institutions, but institutions are becoming more reactionary rather than preparing themselves for racism, saying that racism exists.
Right.
Therefore, we are going to put policies and practices in place so that we can be able to address it and look at transforming our institutions with a racially just lens. And so that's what I do. So I have this like racial justice transformation series that's available to colleges and universities, and they can certainly reach out to me on DeniseDorch.com or
please.
And they can.
That was going to be the follow-up question. So
and
you are flowing.
Right, and
perfectly.
so we can have a conversation about that, and then I can design the training modules to fit the institutional needs. But ideally, we're going to talk about microaggressions, how racism impacts the health and wellness of their students, how to address diversity in their syllabi, how in their student evaluations, in the sort of the fabric from lots of different angles, so that it doesn't seem like it's a one-off, like, oh, this one incident happened and we expelled these like one students for this one thing this one time, right? And so it's really thinking about having a transformational cultural shift at the institutional level, and then for students at the individual level. How can they begin to just go through, because unfortunately, Black and brown students don't have the luxury of just being a student in this country, right? So their job is to ask questions that matter, right? They only got two jobs. Ask questions that matter.
Jot this down, y'all. I'm telling you, jot it down.
And figure out what you want to be, right? What's going to be your contribution? Ask questions that matter, and what's going to be your contribution? That's literally your only job. But because we have this institutionalized oppression and systems of oppression in this country, you have all of these other layers that compound that. So you can't just do those two things. You got to do those two things and figure out all this other stuff and weed through the mud. And so I'm here to be able to help students to be able to do that, and institutions to be able to help do that for them.
I am so impressed. I am wild. I am impressed. I'm engaged, deeply engaged.
Thank you.
This conversation is such a dynamic conversation. All I can see is my daughter in my mind, because there's just so much about you. I can absolutely see my child being an activist. And sometimes you need someone else externally helping to guide your child, because you may not have the tools. Almost just like coaching. Like sometimes you don't have all the tools yourself, so you have to go outside externally to someone else. And so I will definitely be making the connection if nobody else makes the connection. But I'd have to shout out some of the folks who are chiming in. Ladrine says, wow, I can so relate to what she said about the graduate level experience. Lawan says, excellent. Michaela says, what you see and what you get exposed to become your options, whether you realize it or not. So they are loving the conversation.
Thank you.
As much as I'm loving the conversation. Amy Taylor says, yes, I agree. Such a much needed conversation. Keep up the amazing work.
Thank you.
We need you, and you are just so vital and so valued. And if nobody else tells you that, we're telling you that, and we'll keep telling you, because you are you're brilliant, and you are totally walking in your lane of brilliance, right? It's so evident when you see someone walking in their lane of brilliance, because it just shines so brightly. You can't dim the light. So just beautiful. How do people reach out to you one more time? Are you on social media? Can they reach out to you that way?
So there's two ways. So there's Dr._Dorch on Twitter. You can get a hold of me that way. And I only just got on social media platforms for The Grad Expert.
Okay.
So I'm on at the Grad Expert. That's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So you can check me out at The Grad Expert. or at Dr. Dortch on Twitter, or DeniseDortch.com.
So I'm sure if you Google her, you'll find her if you forget any of that. But at the grad expert at Dr. Dortch.
So you could do at the grad expert. So
Yep.
you could just do the grad expert if you want.
The grad expert, yep.
And you could do Dr. Dortch.
Dr. Dortch, okay.
Yeah.
So seek her out, y'all. Find her. Somebody says, yes, surely understand an ABD. I don't know what that means.
All but dissertation.
All right, come on now. All the smart people showing up today. She knows that well for those minority students needing help. Yes. She says, yes, the grad expert. She says, thank you so much. That's coming from Sharon Herbert, a part of our Impact Nation. So I am not the only one who was blessed by this conversation. Thank you for
so
stopping
much.
by.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you just for being brilliant in the world.
I just want to say that I have participated in your, I've been to several of your conferences and your boot camps. Yeah, usually I sit in the back. But I have, so just thank you for the work that you do. I think about it all the time. I've been on several of the conference calls for Black Speakers Network.
Awesome.
And yeah, so yeah, just thank you for what you do.
Absolutely. My pleasure. And thank you for showing up and being amazing today.
Thank you.
You guys, we're going to take just a moment to have a break, and we're going to swap things out. We're going to have our next guest to come up. So stay tuned for none other than the amazing Kimberly Cleveland. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
We have powerful words, we have powerful minds. We use our voices and freedom takes flight. And we're ready to work, we're ready to win. We have a strategy and now we can begin. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Time is over. Now you are a champion. God is my witness. Imperfect perfection. Living my mission and winning. See, we are influencers. We have fear but don't stop. I have the confidence to rise to the top. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. All I need is inside of me. I am enough and now I see. I will reach my destiny. I don't need your permission. Yes, I'm on a mission. I'll win. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now listen, I want y'all to repeat after me, okay? Because we're going to make some declarations in here today. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. You say, I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. Say, I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see me. Say, oh, say I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. You say, we are standing bolder, we're shoulder to shoulder. We are standing bolder, we're shoulder to shoulder. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. Hey, yeah, yeah. We have powerful words, we have powerful minds. We use our voices and freedom takes flight. And we're ready to work, we're ready to win. We have a strategy and now we can begin. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. playtime is over. Now you are a champion. God is my witness. Imperfect perfection. Living my mission and winning. See, we are influencers. We have fear but don't stop. I have the confidence to rise to the top. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over.
Thanks for being here, everybody. And we are back. Wasn't that just such a juicy, powerful conversation that we had with Dr. Dorch? Oh my God,
she was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, totally captivated me, right? Like, that's smart people tend to do that. They captivate me. I'm like, oh, you're so smart. And just so passionate about what she does. I love seeing people who really, really are passionate about what they do. But now we are having our final guest for the day. Her name is Kimberly Cleveland. She is the wife coach. Let me give her proper introduction. She's not only the wife coach, but she's a speaker, a blogger, ladies ministry leader, event producer, and mother. She says to a handsome teenage son. She didn't say to a teenage son. I love that she has that in her bio. As the wife coach, she has counseled and helped prepare women to become amazing wives. Marriage, being a wife, and a mother are her passions. Not so long ago, she took a leap of faith and found purpose through her passion and started the Wife University. As a coach, she helps women to support women and help prepare them to achieve their dreams of becoming an amazing wife and creating a successful marriage. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good to see you again. I feel like we've just been running in the same little circles lately. So the Wife University, tell me, like, how did you get into this? What pulled you to this as your passion and your calling?
Absolutely. Well, as a young child, I always knew I wanted to be a wife and a mother, even before I knew what career path I wanted to take. My grandmother raised me up until I was the age of 6, and my grandparents were married for 60 years.
What? Wait, 60?
Yes, over 60 years.
I don't even know how you like somebody for 60 years, but okay.
Yes, very young at 18. And so I had a great example set by my grandparents, and eventually got married, unfortunately got divorced, got remarried, and got divorced.
Wow.
And so as I went through divorce, all of my girlfriends were going through divorce, and I kind of just stepped back. Of course, I was crushed, because again, this had been my dream. This had been my dream since a young child. And so I really had to evaluate and take a self-reflection and say, what could I have done differently? What could I have done? It all starts with you first, right? And even looking at my ex-husband. And so because my passion is marriage and love, I wanted to do something. And God placed it in my heart. You know, we spend so much time preparing for our careers, you know, whether in our education, 12 years in education. Some of us, like the doctor said here, we go on to get master's degrees and PhD degrees. But how much time do we invest for one of the greatest roles that we'll ever have, being a wife?
Good point. That is such a good point.
And so, you know, and even as a wife, you've got to constantly be getting those CEUs, you know, always be striving to be excellent.
Yes,
and so
I love it.
I wanted to do something. I didn't want to sit in my place of depression or lack, because a lot of women who go through divorce, they feel the shame. You know, they feel the guilt of not being successful. They feel ostracized, because you feel like you have that red letter, you know, once you tell someone, yes, I've been divorced, and God, don't say you've been divorced twice.
Right.
And so I wanted to do something. I wanted to stand in a power position. And I really just wanted to help other women be better prepared and help women who are currently married to take it even higher. And so that's why I started the White University.
That's so powerful, and I love it, and it really does speak volumes to something that you hear me say all the time in the Speaker Domination Group and Impact Nation.
Impact Nation?
Yeah. Which is that your story is about you, but it's not for you. So everything that you go through in life, it was about you. You went through the course of whatever the experience was, but it really becomes for someone else once you make the decision to share it. So I give you kudos that you were willing to be so transparent and open in sharing what you went through and what you experienced to help someone else do it better and get it right. So when you went through that whole space of that kind of reflective introspection, what did you learn that you knew that you wanted to teach somebody else, to teach another woman so that she could be an amazing, successful wife?
Absolutely. So I spent 7 years after I got divorced, really, like I said, taking that self-reflection, and was just like, time out, no dating, nope, you know, in terms of taking a look at who am I first, who am I, and also healing from, a lot of us have daddy issues. You know, my dad wasn't in my life.
It's so true.
And so, you know, you're constantly looking for love. And then also, too, what does it mean to be married? It's more than just love. You're not going to survive, you know. And you're not going to survive on love alone. And I know you don't like this sometimes to say that marriage is work, but it is work, no matter how you look at it.
No, that ain't me. That's somebody else. No, it's work.
Yes.
I'm in 17 years. Oh, it's work, baby.
And marriage is a ministry. That's what I learned. It's a ministry. You have to be your husband's greatest cheerleader. Why did he pick you to be his wife? Why did he pick you to be his ride or die? And so, again, you've got to know yourself. You got to know what your purpose and role is in that marriage as a wife. And why you're coming together, you know? And so that's what I like to share with women, helping them to understand marriage, the purpose of marriage, the ministry of marriage, and also why is it that God says, be that good thing? What is that good thing about? And
so I'm going to ask some questions because I'm going to let her hear your input on this. So you know how, like, a lot of times people get married and they'll say, well, you know, the woman, you should still keep yourself looking like you were this, and I'm talking about after kids. So all y'all folks ain't got no kids, then I don't care. I'm talking about the people who, because you got time.
Right.
So, but my question is for those, you had a son. I have 3 children. I know a lot of people who are married and they have multiple children. And you hear people talking about, you know, keeping yourself looking nice and putting as much effort as you did when you was saying, you know, when y'all were dating. What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I absolutely believe in that. Men are visual. That's one thing about men, they are very visual. And that's not, you should always, I look my best for me, most importantly. But definitely I think you should look your best for your spouse, because we know men are visual. And so I would definitely say and advise women, always keep yourself up. You know, more importantly for you, so that and men are drawn to confidence. And when you look your best, you feel confident. And so I would definitely say that is very important, that you continue to keep yourself.
Torn.
And when you say, you know, you've had kids, yeah, you've added on weight. A lot of men, some men care about weight, but a lot of times I find that men don't. Because when I'm saying, oh, I need to lose 20 pounds, he was like, no, you don't need to lose 20 pounds. I love you just how you are.
Right.
You know what I'm
not
saying?
Even the weight. Okay, so here's my thing. My thing is time.
Yeah.
It's not about weight. Like, I'm sexy either way. Come on. I mean, I'm just saying.
But when you keep yourself up, you're letting him know that he's important, because you've invested the time.
But that sounds so cute. All right, so let's have this is the real conversation I want to have. So that just sounds so cute. It sounds so fairy tale. Life is real.
Yes.
Like, life is, I got 3 kids to get up every morning. I'm yelling and screaming for them to get up because they won't set their own alarm clock. I got to get 3 kids ready, 3 lunches packed, 3 snacks packed. I got to drop them off every day. I pick them up every day. In between, when I get back home at 10 to about 2, I got business. So I'm working on my business. I'm grinding for my business. Then it's time to go pick the kids up. Now I go pick the kids up. Now the kids want to be fed. My husband want to be, come on now. Like, how much do you expect a woman to have to give? Like, I got to look like this all the time? Okay, so speak to that. Because you can check me. I don't mind being checked.
No.
Anybody who want to check me, I don't mind being checked. I'm just saying, I feel like sometimes it's an unrealistic expectation to say the woman always has to keep herself looking like she did when we dated. But when we dated, I ain't had 3 kids. When we dated, I had to pick nobody else and drop. All I had to do was go to the gym, go get cute, get my hair done, get my nails done, and come home and look good for you. Now it's dinner, it's go to the grocery store, it's pick the kids up, it's help with homework, it's help with projects, it's serve my clients. It's like there's a lot more on my plate 17 years later than it was when we first met, and I was single and cute and fly because I ain't had nothing else to do with my time. Okay,
Absolutely.
Now there you go.
I hear you. I hear you. And you know, we as women, sometimes we put those expectations on ourselves in terms of trying to be the superwoman. Sometimes we can't do it all. Right. So we have to pick and choose. We have to set up systems. I have a girlfriend that has 6 kids. And so like you, the weekends are about taking her kids to games. I mean, when you have 6 kids, that's it. You don't have time to do anything else. Like you said, and feed them, that's all I have time for.
Right.
So you have to really prioritize your life. You have to, what I like to say, group things, chunk things. But again, going back to the husband and wife relationship, that's the foundation.
Right.
If I don't keep that strong, everything else falls.
And that's very true. So maybe I can doll myself up a couple times a week.
It doesn't. We're looking all good like this for TV. It may not be all of this, but when I go out, it's lipstick and eyeliner.
Right.
And a lot of times too, when you're trying to get them, know that if you're going to do all this to catch them, then you got to keep all this up. Right. So a lot of times it's not all about dialing it to the nines. Be yourself. It's okay to be natural. You don't have to be dialed up to the nines, but don't put that pressure on yourself to feel like every day I've got to do the hour of makeup and hour of hair. But again, be yourself. Be
so
cute.
I'll go back to what you said earlier, which is it's work. So I'm just saying, when y'all think about getting married, when you are thinking about getting married, you need to consider these things, because I feel like that's something that a lot of women don't talk about, and they just assume that it's just going to naturally flow over. And it's like once you add children into the mix and into the equation, everything changes, everything shifts. I don't care how much you want to acknowledge it or don't want to acknowledge it. Everything shifts. Your priorities shift.
Absolutely.
But I do believe that there is a responsibility for us as wives to make sure that we still nurture our marriages, because you're right, that is the foundation. If that foundation falls apart, then the whole family falls apart. So I'm gonna do better.
It's a challenge, no doubt.
I'm going to work on it. So I understand that you offer group coaching, one-on-one coaching, and workshops. Tell us what that looks like. Tell us what someone would learn or experience when they come into your, whether it's group or individual coaching or even a workshop.
Absolutely. So I do one-on-one coaching. A lot of my one-on-one coaching recently has been with wives who are facing certain challenges. So I asked them to go to my website, www.thewifeuniversity.com. There is a place for them to sign up for a clarity coaching. That's for me to get clear on what challenges that they're facing that I might be able to help and support them with. And so you can go and have that free 15-minute discovery session where I can see where I might possibly be able to help you, to give you tools and strategies for whatever challenges you may be having. I also do group coaching. I rolled out my first online course a couple weeks ago.
Awesome.
Thank you. Being that good thing. So that's wrapping up. I'm getting ready to launch another program. I'm having a free webinar on Thursday, February 21st called How to Heal and How to Find Hope in Healing After Divorce. So that's going to be a free webinar. You can go to healingfromdivorce.eventbrite.com and sign up for that free online webinar. And again, I'm just here to help women who, like me, have gone through a divorce, who are suffering and need some healing and hope.
And hope that love can exist again, like you can find it again, right?
Absolutely.
So how important do you think, well, first of all, let me read some of these comments, because people are really chiming in. They're loving the conversation. Michaela says it's a lot of work, and you don't have to put a lot of work in, and you have to put a lot of work into it. And you don't have to, and you don't have to put a lot of work into it, just a little bit. You can put on something nice. Okay, I received that, Michaela. I received that. Put on something cute, girl, right? Don't go all out, but something. She says just a little effort matters.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Keandra says, honestly, I think it depends on the person and how important it is to them. That's a really good point. But you made a great point that men are very visual, and we know that as women, right? So we have to make sure that we keep that in our minds as well. Tanika says, yes, we can't always be super women. I agree. Then Amika Adams just said, Jesus. Exclamation. So she is enjoying the conversation. Michaela says, yes, so true. Be yourself, because my husband does not care about makeup, but loves when I put on something nice for him.
Let me tell you, my ex-husband, he liked me in a nice coordinating sweatsuit, tennis shoes, and a baseball hat, and my hoops.
Right.
So again, study your man.
That's hashtag study your man. Hashtag study. You have to know your mate, your husband, and
every man is different.
Because my husband is the same way. My husband isn't really into a whole lot of makeup.
Exactly.
But he does want my hair to be done. And he don't want me looking a hot mess like I do most days when I go out the house and I'm dropping my kids off with a baseball cap looking cray-cray. Sometimes I do. I told y'all I'm a work in progress. I'm going to work on that. Shelly Mills, I love this. She said shared responsibility is the way. Sisters need to know their worth and shared responsibility. Kiana is saying yes. Nika says yes. Amy Tell says woo, 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 woo is all I'm going to say. This is a hot topic. And she's saying congratulations on your webinar. Amika says we need to help other women to have the tools to heal from divorce, so they are enjoying that. Yes. So give them, everybody's saying hashtag study your man, hashtag study your man. Give them the website one more time for that the webinar that you're doing. Yeah.
Healingfromdivorce.eventbrite.com.
Can somebody type that in the feed? That would be fantastic. Healingfromdivorce.eventbrite.com. Healingfromdivorce.eventbrite.com. So how important do you feel it is for women who are considering becoming wives or who are currently wives to be in an inner circle where they can I don't want to call it venting, but they can share. Absolutely. And they can have accountability for what they are or are not doing. Because I probably need to be in a circle where people are saying, Cheryl, get your mind right. And put some lipstick on for your husband.
Absolutely. As women, we do like to talk. We're talkers.
Yes.
But we also like to offer support. We're very supportive. We're very encouraging to one another. And sometimes, too, we talked about isolation. When you're going through, you tend to isolate yourself. And you don't want to do that. You want to surround yourself with people who can support you and encourage you. And like you said, tell you when you're wrong, but tell it lovingly and help you. Because sometimes like you said, you don't know. When you're in it, you don't know what to do. And they can give you that extra or outside perspective that you don't have.
Yeah.
So it's good to build that community of women. And that's what I'm going to also do with Healing from Divorce.
I just think that's so powerful.
Is create a support group. So look forward to that.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I mean,
once a month we can come together and help each other find tips, tools, and strategies.
Because we have to support each other. And at the end of the day, look, when we say I do, we do say it because we want it to be lifelong,
absolutely,
if possible. And if someone who has already been through what we're about to go through with the experience can share with us their knowledge, their expertise, their unique experiences, and help us to kind of avoid some of the pitfalls that maybe they fell in, that's when you go back to that whole, your story is about you, but it's not for you. So I think, again, I just got to celebrate you and give kudos that you're willing.
The word supports that. The older women train up the younger women.
Yes, absolutely. So that we can have, like, family is really important. I'm very, very big on family. And sometimes we do, even as women, need to be checked. Like, Cheryl, now come on now, get it together. Like, get your mind right, put a dress on and go on out to dinner, leave the kids at home, or leave the kids with somebody. Sometimes you need to hear that from another woman. You need to be reminded of the importance of nurturing the marriage the same way you do your relationship with your children, and so that the family unit stays together. So I love what you're doing. I think it's so powerful. I love that you're walking in this lane of brilliance and being so transparent.
Well, thank you.
And sharing what you've experienced. So if you had any closing words for the women who are watching and all of this juicy comments that we're having. LaJuan, I got to read her comment. She says, my husband will certainly tell me in a loving way when I need to step it up, and vice versa. We do it all in love. I love that.
Yes,
and that goes to communication.
Yes.
Right? Having open communication.
Yes.
And then Sharon, another Impact Nation member, says, great.
Sharon.
Helpful for those of us on the edge of the story as well. So they are loving it. So any final tips, thoughts that you'd like to share? And again, tell them how they can reach out to you one more time.
Absolutely. We all know Valentine's Day is tomorrow. So
my God, I got to go. Okay, we got to hurry up in the show so I can go. No, I'm just kidding.
So ladies who are married, make sure you show your husband that he is special. A lot of times men feel like Valentine's Day is all about the women.
So good.
Not true.
Yeah.
So make sure remind him that he is still special.
Yes.
To my single ladies, what I would advise them, don't get caught up that maybe you're not booed up, bayed up on Valentine's Day. Take this as an opportunity to love up on someone else. You know, it's always better to give than to receive.
Yes.
And so take this opportunity, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, whether it's that neighbor or senior you hardly see, do an act of kindness on Valentine's Day, okay? And I promise you, you'll be blessed.
I love that, Kimberly. That gave me goosebumps. I'm like, you and Dr. Doris just gave me goosebumps the whole show today. I love it. I love that idea. Because you'll hear people often say, do something for yourself and love on yourself. But I don't hear very many people say, do something for someone else.
Oh, God.
So that's so powerful on Valentine's Day. Take roses or flowers to your neighbor who's an elderly neighbor who doesn't have a mate or whatever. Just something for somebody else. I think that is such a great suggestion.
Maybe for a stranger.
For a stranger. Come on, y'all. You can go get a dozen roses and give them out. Give one to this person. I mean, like, everybody wants to feel loved, right? And nobody wants to feel, use that word isolated earlier. Nobody wants to feel isolated and alone and by themselves. And sometimes your small act of kindness can go such a long way in letting someone else know you're not alone, or I see you, or you matter, right? And we're in that type of society and world where people need to know, right? People sometimes, I think that they're alone, but they're really not alone, and it's up to us to keep reminding them that they're not alone.
Absolutely.
You are brilliant. You're amazing.
Thank you.
I love what you're doing.
www.thewifeuniversity.com.
Thewifeuniversity.com.
I'm also on Facebook at thewifeuniversity.com, Instagram, The Wife Coach.
Okay, you guys got that? So Kay Janelle Holland says, great advice, Kimberly. Carla, hi, Dr. Carla Cook, says, love that, to take the opportunity to support others. She said, I'm going to use that tomorrow on my radio show as well. Hashtag Impact Nation. Yes, and then Sharon also is agreeing. She says, yes, she loves that idea. do an act of kindness on Valentine's Day for someone else. Again, Janelle Holland says, awesome job, Kimberly. So again, kudos to you. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being with us today on
Yes.
Impact the World Radio. I mean, juicy conversations, and we're just going to keep those conversations going for 2019. And all I want you to reflect on is making sure that you are walking in your lane of brilliance. You have seen two women today who are absolutely playing all out in their God-given gifts, their assignment, whatever you want to call it, their unique brilliance. Are you doing the same? Because life is too short to think
Yes.
about it, hope for it, wish for it, want for it. You got to get out and you have to execute it. Because what I know is that every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, somebody going to get a speech today. Somebody is going to get a speech, because I know that's my God-given gift, to run my mouth, inspire, impact, motivate, empower someone else to know that there's something greater on the other side of what they're currently experiencing. So I owe it to myself. I owe it to the world. I owe it to God who gave me the gift to
Yes.
always make sure that I am using the gift. That's why we say impact the world.
Yes.
Because you can touch one person, that person goes and touches somebody else, that person goes and touches somebody else, and now you are having a global impact like a domino effect. You push one, bam, now it just goes all the way around, and it just impacts so many other people beyond just that one person that you touch. So every day, somebody's going to hear a speech. Might be my Uber driver. It might be my waitress. It might be my husband or my children, but you're going to get a speech. We will be here again live next Wednesday right here at Impact the World Radio. Until then, have an amazing week and amazing weekend.
We have powerful words, we have powerful minds. We use our voices and freedom takes flight. And we're ready to work, we're ready to win. We have a strategy and now we can begin. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. Now you are a champion.